Greetings, welcome to the Bruce Poppy Show. Today I get to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Matt Geiger. He is the founder of Verity Metals. Verity Metals is one of the sponsors of this channel, and I'm happy to bring him to you today to give you some insight. Maybe you've decided that you want to invest in precious metals but not sure where to go. Verity Metals is the place. Are you ready? All right, welcome to the Bruce Poppy Show, everybody. I'm Bruce Poppy, and I'm here with my guest and friend, and I guess you call him business partner, affiliate person that I thoroughly enjoyed. Gosh, we haven't known each other that long, but it seems like we've known each other a lifetime. I've mentioned many times that the people that I've met as I've traveled around and done different things, that the people I meet, I feel like I know them my whole life. And that is the case when it happens that you're on the same frequency, right? You're just in that alignment. And Matt with Verity Metals is one of those people. So Matt is the owner.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. And that's a beautiful thing, about this whole great awakening ascension process that everybody's going through. But Matt Geiger is the owner and founder of Verity Metals. And Verity Metals is one of the companies that I've decided to partner myself with and promote because I've done my research. And out of all the different companies out there, because there's seems like in today's world, everybody and their brother has a gold and silver guy, right? And when you start looking, especially when you start dealing with money in your future, retirement, investment stuff, that you need to do your research. You just can't go with any guy that comes down the pike, because I'm sure Matt can share some stories, and I've heard horror stories myself of people just getting totally screwed over by jumping into a fiduciary relationship. That's a good way to put it, right? Jumping into a fiduciary relationship with somebody who ends up to be not completely above board. And so, you're talking about money that you have blood, sweat, tears, worked your butt off to acquire, and investing is supposed to help you grow that, help it be secure. So I'm very happy to have this conversation with Matt today. Welcome to Bruce Poppy Show, Matt.
So good to be with you, Bruce. Thanks for having me. And awesome. I totally agree with you, man. It's like, that's what everybody says. It's like we all have only known each other for, in some cases, maybe at the most a couple of years. And it's like everybody feels like we've known each other for a lifetime, because it's interesting, sure, I have a gold company and all that. But, I used to sit back and watch a lot of these podcasters that I now sit on and advertise with. I used to be a viewer just like, the viewers that are watching now. I used to be on the other side of it. So, if you would have told me a couple of years ago I'd be working with some of the names that I work with, including you, I would have pinched myself, and you're right. There's I'm just a little, I'm a little guy. I'm not one of these big. I used to work at the big companies back in the day. And, I saw so many ways that they can improve what they're doing, just on every front, whether it be choice of products, prices of precious metals. I'm competitive with some of the cheapest places out there. These guys will charge you a fortune. Not to mention, my storage capabilities. A lot of people who do IRAs, they're required to use a depository. Mm-hmm. And I found ways where, we can build certain infrastructure for clients that allow them to store maybe locally. Right. Just options that just don't exist anywhere else. And that's because, I kind of took it upon myself to improve the industry. The industry is kind of the Wild West. There's no regulation. So you have no idea, if you're dealing with some crummy company, you won't find out until your business is done. You're 6 months or a year in, and then you realize it, So, right. But I'm glad you're doing the show. I think you have I've always enjoyed your perspective, whenever we talk and you give your perspective on, whatever issue, XYZ issues. I think you always have something interesting to bring to the table. So good for you, man. I'm honored to be working with you and on your show.
Absolutely. Appreciate that very much. And yeah, I mean, you would, even though you say you're just a small company, I mean, I think that's one of the key aspects of our society as we go forward and looking to build a new economy because it has become painfully aware to myself, many others, and more are becoming aware of this all the time, every single day, that these companies, whether it's a gold company, whether it's a manufacturer, any of these big, large mega corporations, COVID kind of exposed that the richest people on the planet, with the big, all the big boys got to keep their businesses open, and many of the smaller guys, smaller mom and pop places were forced to close, and many of those people are out of business. I mean, that's the
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
we're fighting. Yeah.
It showed the collusion between the politicians, the corporations, right? They're scratching each other's backs left and right. They get the most favorable treatment. The Democrats have been, very vocal over the years, over the decades about, all the corporations. The Republicans have kind of taken the position like, free market. And it's like, neither of us knew what we were talking about, right? We were both kind of lost on the subject. And I think that's the beauty of what Trump really represents, is Trump really represents identifying who the enemy really is, right? We can see who the true enemies are now. And I find that to be so empowering, and I feel so bad for these leftists who are out, terrorizing neighborhoods and terrorizing cities right now, that they don't understand that all Trump's trying to do is show you who the true enemy is. Yep. That's all he's trying to do. He's not going to take them down just yet. He's going to wait for all of us to take them down.
Well, that's one of the key aspects. It's Trump is. I said this many times before. I liken Trump to Toto in The Wizard of Oz. When they were in the Emerald City, Toto's the one that rolled up and pulled that curtain back, and you saw the little guy behind there, pulling all the levers. Trump is pulling the curtain back and allowing us to see, those that have eyes to see. There's still many people that have scales on their eyes and they're blinded, to the truth. And it's not anything about, being right, correct, not left and right, but it's about not only exposing the enemy, but realizing who the power that we have as individuals and as a collective, we the people here in the United States. That's what this was set up to be, a self-governance, for the people, by the people. And that has been obfuscated, over for the last 250 years. And it almost started to go south right from Jump Street. We don't want to get a history lesson about the Constitution and the birth of the country, but we're realizing that the smaller companies, people just can't. The trust has been broken with all these people. At least for me, that's my perspective. Trust has been broken. We were led to believe that we could trust the people that we voted into office, that they were going to look out and have our best interests at heart. We were led to believe that these companies that we buy stuff and use every single day, whether you get it from Walmart, Target, it doesn't matter. Any big multinational corporation, whether it's a retailer, manufacturer, whatever, that we could trust these companies. And we're coming to find out through the Maha movement and Robert Kennedy Jr. And many people have been aware of a lot of the stuff that's in there, and the stuff we consume every single day. So we were lied to.
Look at this Walmart heiress now. She's the one going around taking her billions of dollars and funding these. I'm not even going to call them protests. I mean, it's domestic terrorism, really, right? She's going out and putting up her money, and that's fine, But I mean, if I were somebody who, I'm just like everybody else. I go to Walmart from time to time. I'm not going to Walmart anymore. Screw Walmart. I want nothing to do with them.
Yep.
And really, it's tough because Amazon just the convenience, just everything at your fingertips, overnight delivery, you need something for the dog who I got right here. You need something for the dog or whatever, and you got to go drive to the pet store or something. It's so convenient, and it's like we've all fallen victim to this whole idea of life, this super convenient life, which we should have. Look, it's obviously doable, right? But I mean, I personally don't think Jeff Bezos invented Amazon. I think it's another Facebook story where, kind of like what Juan talks about with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook started out as LifeLog, right? That's a DARPA. It's an invention of DARPA, right? And they took Mark Zuckerberg and they made him the face of Facebook, And then the whole story with the Winklevoss twins, what did they do? They raised, and Juan was just talking about this, and I wanted to know this, and I just saw it on one of his recent shows. He says, yeah, the Winklevoss twins, they needed to, create another figure, right? The deep state needed to create another shadowy figure. So they created these Winklevoss twins. They made them billions of dollars, right? So they had a reason to have billions of dollars. And what they do? They invested in Bitcoin. Right. So what does that tell you about Bitcoin? Bitcoin is an invention of DARPA. Right. So, back to the whole gold and silver conversation. It's like, look, I own Bitcoin. I'm a beneficiary of the uptick in price in Bitcoin. But at the same time, I understand it's probably a scam. The whole thing's probably a scam. And, that's why I like the gold and silver space, is because, look, if I like Bitcoin or I liked, financial advising, I probably know enough about this stuff where I could be a financial, why wouldn't I go get a license? I used to have licensing. Why wouldn't I do that? It's because I believe in this stuff. And I think what it represents a safe bridge to get you out of this system as it crumbles and moving into the new system. And, we can talk about on this show, future shows that we do, we should really talk about, hey, what is that system going to look like? What are going to be the mechanisms of money? Well, first off, I think it's going to be a basket of metals. I think you're going to see gold, silver, platinum, maybe even palladium. Maybe we'll have other metals, maybe you see other precious metals in there, copper, who knows, titanium.
Right.
So the idea is gold and silver's, what I think is really represents the future. And it's exciting, but we're in that time right now where it's also, I'm excited. I think you are too, but we're in that situation where we're starting to get exposures. What did Trump retruth last week or the week before? Joe Biden was executed by the U.S. military in 2020 for treason. Why isn't the news picking this up? And you could Google it, and the news is like, oh, Trump, the conspiracy theorist. It's like, okay, either this guy's the biggest conspiracy theorist that we've ever heard of, or, which I doubt, okay, which I don't believe, or Joe Biden's fucking dead. Okay.
I choose option B.
Option B, Alex. Yeah.
But yeah, so the whole gold and silver thing and this, transition, because we've seen, they just seem to print money anytime they want. They need money, they just print it. We talk about being
just on that subject, not to interrupt you, Bruce, but did you, and I'm asking you, did you hear about how Congress had their own money printing machine?
No, I did not. I know I heard something about Elon finding 14 money printing computers where they could just, create money out of nothing.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was it. You think the debt's $35 trillion? I think the national debt is
way more.
$2 quadrillion.
It's quadrillion. Yeah. Because furthermore, COVID, they just continue to print, and the value of the dollar is negligible. It's all propped up. It's I use the term, it's fake, phony, and false. It's all propped up.
Fake, phony, and false. Yeah.
Just like Dave from X22 says, yeah.
Yeah, I love Dave. And we saw that interview with Catherine Austin Fitts with Tucker Carlson. And I've been a fan of Catherine Austin Fitts for years. I think she's brilliant. She's a big fan of precious metals. She's got such great perspective on all kinds of subjects. But what did she reveal in that interview? She revealed that the deep state took $20 trillion and built underground cities using $20 trillion of money. Yep. So what does that tell you? It tells you our whole conspiracy theory about, going into nuclear war and these people were going to kill off, 80, 90% of the planet. Not a conspiracy theory anymore, is it?
No.
You just start putting like Biden. It's like, okay, well, we also have an auto pen where he didn't sign anything.
Right.
Oh, things say, right? You don't need to be, I'm not that smart, like these liberals, they think they're so smart and they call this a conspiracy. Like, I don't think I'm that smart. Sure, I know a few things, but I'm no genius. I'm not sitting here sending rockets into space, but I have enough common sense and honesty with myself to understand that, this stuff is happening. This stuff's happening, and it's happening right in front of us.
I know you talk about the conspiracy theory that show Lewis Herms of Screw Big Gov, who's running for the governor of California.
Governor Herms.
Yeah, Governor Herms. Him and I were doing a show on Tuesdays, on his channel. I put it on my Rumble channel. We used to be Tinfoil Hat Tuesday because we would dive into conspiracies. But then we ran out of shit to talk about because all the stuff that was conspiracy theory came true. I mean, one of the most recent, the whole chemtrails thing. That people told you were crazy. That's just vapor coming off. And now it's a proven fact. There's dozens and dozens of patents on the process. And many state. If it was a conspiracy theory, why would state legislatures go through the process of putting out bills to ban this, chemical seeding in the clouds, whatever you want to call it, different chemtrail, whatever. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's totally true. And let me tell you something, take a step further. I was watching an interview. I got to get this guy's name. But he was doing an interview with Nino. This is within the last couple months. And yeah, there is damage being done to the environment. The real damage being done to the environment is in the soil.
Yeah.
Right. It's in the soil that we grow in. Right. And of course, the waters. He was talking about how like fruit and vegetables, they're not growing the way they used to. They I thought about it, and I'm like, I have an orange tree right here in front of my house. I have one orange tree that sits here. The oranges that this thing produce are such trash. And I'm sitting there like, this is an orange tree. Like they're coming out, big and full, right? I wouldn't eat it. Like it's just something about it. It's just it looks like it's been like poisoned.
Oh yeah.
And I look and I'm listening to this guy. I'm like, shit, this stuff has been poisoned. Our ability to grow has been taken from us.
Yep. The soil,
and that has to do with chemtrail.
I was a few years ago, I was reading up on something and just on that line of, growth and the lack of nutrients that we get from the food is if you take, say, 30, 40, 50 years ago, the amount of nutrition to be able to get out of one tomato, say, just pick a number, call it 50 years ago, because we're already 2025. 50 years ago is 1975. That makes you feel old. But one tomato, and the nutritional value today, you'd have to eat 8 or 10 of those same tomatoes to even get close to the nutritional value of that one fruit. So I mean, that's why the supplement world is such a huge thing that you need to do. You need to find yourself some quality supplements to be able to have the machine, our body, be able to function properly, because the food that we're getting is not sufficient. That's putting it nice.
I mean, it's so true. I go to restaurants, man, and like one thing I'll never order in a restaurant ever again is chicken.
Oh,
chicken in any restaurant I go to. I was at the Cheesecake Factory last year, and I like their pasta carbonara. They have a really good pasta carbonara, and I got it with chicken. And this chicken was like, it was just disgusting. It wasn't, them messing up in the kitchen or something. It was just like the quality of the chicken was just disgusting.
No.
And I find that to be true anywhere I go. So I avoid chicken dishes. I try to eat, red meat, steak, burgers, things like that. I mean, that's probably your best bet in terms of protein is find a good, I use like Good Rancher. I use Frontier Natural Meats up in Colorado. I mean, believe me, free endorsements for them, because these are great ranches that privately produce, they kill the animal humanely, which is also very important to me, that they're not, just being run in a line for slaughter. I mean, that's another hideous practice we could talk about. But yeah, I mean, you really have to start getting creative where you get your food these days, because it's not, if you hit the nail on the head, it's not like it was even 10 years ago.
Yep. It's things are changing, and that's why I tell people all the time, it's up to us. We can sit around and wait for somebody else, the government or company or whatever, to kind of get their head out of their butt and start doing things right. But it's up to us, we the people, to make our own path forward, to be able to make those decisions, because there is alternatives. People don't understand that you don't have to go to Walmart, Target, or your local grocery store and get everything you need. There's other alternatives. And one of the alternatives that I'm super high on will be the link is in the description. Just buying stuff American made, getting the crazy good beef, stuff we use every day. But we're here to talk with Matt about silver and gold. So tell me, how did you get started in the gold business? What was that? Just something you grew up when you were a little kid, you're 5, 6 year old. I want to be a gold and silver guy when I grew up.
It's actually so funny you put it like that, because it's not quite that way, but there's an element to it. So I grew up in New York. I grew up in Long Island. We have a public swimming pool called Manor Haven Pool. And, my parents, they would get, me and my siblings, they would get, the summer passes for us every summer, and, great memories. And I remember one summer, we were in the food court, and I can still remember, my feet going over, the fries that are stomped on the floor, that gross nastiness, And on the floor one day, I found a 1964 Kennedy. And this is like the early 90s. So, it wasn't a big deal. Silver prices were, probably a couple bucks, wasn't.
And for those people who don't know, 1964 was the last year that they had silver quarters. Yeah.
Right. Silver in the money. And I found a 64 Kennedy, and it was like my first time ever really seeing silver. So I think that as a kid always caught my eye. Right. And it got me looking into President Kennedy and who he was by the time I became, kind of a learned teenager where I could, read books and figure stuff out for myself. And then I got into my 20s. In my early 20s, I wasn't really doing much. I was kind of bouncing around jobs, et cetera. And I found silver to be a really great savings tool. It was a wave that, with a little bit of money I could make, I could stack something away for myself. It was something where, if I really needed to liquidate it, I could go back to the gold or silver shop and get cash for it, right? But that was a process. You're going to go across down to this guy and then, right, et cetera. So I think there I kind of developed my interest. I actually ran a nutritional company for a number of years, and a damn good one. I dealt in what are called polyphenols, which are things that help with aerobic function of cells. Instead of cells reproducing anaerobically, which means without oxygen. Right. That's where cancer starts, and metabolic disorders like cancer and heart disease and all kinds of stuff, obesity, diabetes. Right. That's where is when your cells start reproducing anaerobically without oxygen. That's where it starts. So what polyphenols do is it shoots oxygen into that cell reproduction process so that they reproduce with oxygen aerobically. Right. If you remember 10th grade biology class. Right. So I had a really good product line. Eventually, I was like, it started getting very hard to source it because I had some real brilliant guy back east. He was making me these products, and one day he just disappeared and never heard from him again. And then maybe about a little over 10 years ago, I was living on the West Coast, and I was looking around. I said, wow, I could, I was still buying gold and silver the whole time, mostly silver because it was in more of my budget at the time. And I started working for, I won't say who it is, but I started working for, probably the biggest gold company out there. And I became a rep there, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I was, selling stuff that I really believed in. I saw what happened in the financial crash. And, one thing that was funny to me, well, not funny, but in about 2010, 2011, I was coming from Manhattan on the 7 train out to Flushing, Queens. And that's the 7 train that goes over Roosevelt Avenue, right? Past to Jackson Heights, and you eventually get to Flushing. But the stop before Flushing is Shea Stadium, right, where the New York Mets play. And I look over, and they're rebuilding this thing, and it's called Citi Field. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, I'm like, didn't Citibank just get bailed out trillions of dollars by the American people like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And here they are 2 years later getting the bailout, and now they're building a baseball stadium. I'm like, this system, and that's when I knew. I'm like, this whole system is a total scam. Everything is just, these guys are criminal. So yeah, I've always kind of looked at gold and silver as not just, a hedge against inflation. I look at it as a hedge against the system. These are the idiots, and then I got older and started learning about the deep state and who these people really are. Right. So it's like, it's been like a awakening process for me, my entire life. And then, when I started Verity last year, Verity Metals, my company now, it was because I just do this business better than any of the big companies, and people can work directly with me. I don't try to go advertise and throw hundreds of thousands of dollars of marketing at, different places to see what sticks. I'd rather work with, a Lewis Herms or a Bruce Poppy, and work very intimately with your viewers so that when they do this stuff, it's a very one-on-one transaction.
Right.
Right.
I think that's a key thing to really point out and highlight is, in Verity Metals, when you, I'm going to put the website up here in a minute, but when you reach out to Matt, you can actually get to Matt. You can text. There's a phone number on the website. And so it's not some call center out in India that you're
Or LA.
or LA or anywhere, some other godforsaken place.
Yeah, Beverly Hills.
Yeah, you're getting
run to the hills.
You're getting personalized, customer service, which is really kind of one of the forgotten things in today's economy and companies is customer service. They just outsource that. They just want to deal with it, But I think that's one of the key aspects of Verity Metals is you're getting some intimate, personal relationship. You're not just still looking to sell somebody some gold and silver or convert a 401 or IRA. You want to actually partner with these people, and you actually become friends a lot more times than not with the people that you do business with, because that's just the type of person you are.
And it's the community, it's like if you or me, you do the same thing, because we have, I'm sure your audience is going to be identical to a lot of the other audiences I deal with, but we're all looking, we all want to deal with each other, and it's like when we go to these events or they call me up to do their IRA or 401k, right? It's like we've known each other our whole lives. It's like what we said at the beginning of the show, so it's like, it's a perfect fit, and I think people like that. It's like, and I'm blessed and I'm fortunate because it's like, I could also be doing business with a bunch of, pain in the ass liberals, but I'm very blessed that I get to deal with, a great patriot crowd, people that understand, they call in and they understand what's going on, and, trying to convince people that, hey, we're taking down a deep state satanic cabal that's been running our system our entire lives, and we didn't even think about it or even know it. That could be a little much for some people. I've had, when I worked at companies and I would bring some of this stuff up with some of the people that are not in our community, they're like, all right, this guy's a little crazy. Well, who's crazy now, right? Look at what's been going on. And like you said, it's not about being right. I have no desire to be right. I just think it's a good place. Is it going to last forever? No. Hopefully gold and silver become money. Hopefully it backs our dollar again, right? Maybe we'll have diversification. As Juan says, we'll have an oil-backed dollar, a metals-backed dollar, right? Get diversification in the dollar, right? Not this centralized fiat nonsense through the Federal Reserve.
Right.
But we got some big stuff coming up. You mentioned that before the show, before we got on, what's going on in Brazil. Yeah, you want to watch Brazil. Because as Juan talks about, that's where the largest Japanese population is other than Japan, right? So their money's heavily connected to the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen is probably going to be the first currency to fail. And the way Juan describes it is our FDIC is going to come in and bail out the Japanese before our banks go down, right? So they're obligated to do that. Japan's probably our number one ally, at least financially. They're our number one ally.
Right.
And I love the Japanese. I would love my dream is I'm going to go to Japan one of these days. That's my goal. I love their culture. I love everything about the Japanese. But we're going to be bailing them out, and that's going to have a whole ripple effect on the whole system. And I don't know what's going to happen to these banks. I mean, I don't see how they can't collapse. So I think what the precious metals represents is it represents getting your money. We're bringing your money into existence. Think of it like that. Right now, you just go on your phone screen and boom, you're looking at your bank statement, right? You got $50,000 in the checking account. That's just dots and Tito's on a computer screen.
Right.
Right. That's not real money. So when you take that 50,000 and you turn it into gold and silver, now in your hand, you've brought your money into existence. And I think that's such an important concept for people to grasp.
Right. No, that's you're exactly right. And just wasn't long ago, just a few months ago, or within the last 3 months, here in Florida where I live, you're based in Arizona, but here in Florida where I live, Governor DeSantis signed something that gold and silver are now legal tender here in the state of Florida. So I mean, there's I believe there's other states that may do that as well. But I mean, if you look at real currency or money, real money. The fiat currency, that's the fake stuff. The real money that Stephen talked about in the Constitution is, gold and silver. And when you... I was going to say... go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say that, not to interrupt you, but I had a conversation with Mark Fincham, right? If you know Mark Fincham. And he actually designed the legislation here in Arizona. It's on the books. It just hasn't been enacted. But... it's gold and silver legislation where people can just trade in gold and silver without any government oversight. In other words, we don't need the government to get involved in our money. You guys can deal with you. Go secure the border. Go arrest MS-13. That's your job. We're gonna go. We can deal in our money on our own. We're just fine. We're big boys and girls, right? We can handle it.
Yeah, how about fixing some of the roads? I mean, the couple 3 times that I've traveled around the country in my vehicle and an RV, I think some attention needs to be placed on some of these federal highways, because the roads are just to beat the crap out of you and your vehicle. So yeah, the federal government is far too deep into our lives in every nature and every aspect. And so yeah, with the less government in your life, the better off you are.
Exactly. It's like, look at California. California is a perfect microcosm for the whole country. It's like these people are paying so much money to their government. They're paying probably, in a lot of cases, more than 50% of what they make to the government. And they get nothing in return. They get nothing. The roads are shit. The sidewalks are garbage. None of it goes back in. And why? Because we found out with Doge. So all the money is being laundered. It's being kicked back to them. They're just stealing the money.
And so when you mentioned how you kind of came across that, got into silver, was first exposed to it when you found that quarter. When you mentioned you mentioned that
Kennedy happened. That's okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
You mentioned that that you got into silver because it was affordable, and I think that's a good starting point for a lot of people, because people think and you can buy gold. They talk about being a little, what is it, 3,100 or up over 3,000.
3,400 an ounce right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So $3,400 for ounce. I mean, people just starting, wanting to try to get into the game and start a process. That's way too much. But in the middle, $30 an ounce for silver. What is it? 36, 37, something like that.
36 right now. Yeah, 36 doesn't change. Yeah, where gold's good is, if you're storing a lot of money, if you have to get a lot of money out of the bank, maybe a couple $100,000, a couple $1 million, right? Gold's going to be your ally, right? If you had to get that in silver, you're going to be, just moving that around is just going to be impossible. Look, if you can handle it and you have a place to store it safely, sure, absolutely go pick up a couple $1 million of silver. That's a fantastic idea. But what's nice about gold is that, the average person, where maybe they got, a couple $100,000 that they're trying to allocate, it's called $500,000. I would advise that person, okay, you probably want to do, $350 in gold, and then just do the other 150, or 150, 200 in silver, right? Because believe me, 150, 200 grand, that's a lot of silver.
Yeah, man.
That's like 500-700 pounds of silver, So, I love gold, and gold is so important. But especially people that people that come to me with, I get a lot of IRAs that are maybe $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I'll tell those people, like, hey, wouldn't be a bad, and people can choose whatever they, some people really want gold. Absolutely. I'm not stopping anybody, but I usually take those IRAs. I say, hey, let's get you the best bang for your buck. Let's get you as much silver as we can, so we'll do the entire 40, 50 grand in silver. And I think it's a great place to be. I think silver price is what I think they're going to do. Everybody thinks they're going to absolutely go crazy. You could see $100 silver in no time. But we'll see. I'm no one, me, Bruce. I'm no one to predict prices. Right. I like to keep it, hey, you have the money in your possession. It's physical. It's out of the banks, right?
And it likely will never be zero.
Exactly. Right. I don't think silver's too useful to be zero. Believe me.
Right. And the dollar, even if you have money in the stock market, a typical 401k, because that's one of the things that you kind of are a specialty in, is converting 401ks and IRAs into precious metal backed situations. And that's one of the other things that I love about Matt and Verity Metals, is you can't just say, okay, you have your standard thing. Oh, this is what you do. Boom, boom. Everybody gets the same deal. No, everybody has different goals. They have different amounts of money. They have different risk factors. So there's all these different factors, or what are the things, variables in people's lives and their situation, where you can kind of tailor and find out. That's why the communication between the customer and the customer's support and service is so important, because so you can find out what people want, and then you help them get that.
Yeah, and I generally try to recommend, people, and I'll just tell people this, generally what I like to see is people get into U.S. coinage. The United States Mint is a division of the Treasury Department. So when people buy gold and silver from me, generally I will recommend, and believe me, you can get whatever you like. Some people have very specific things they want, perfectly fine. As long as they're happy, I'm happy. But I would always say, try to go with U.S. minted coinage, because that is the constitutional money. That is the stuff that if we do go back to gold and silver backed money, that is the stuff that will plug you into a constitutional system. You pay a little bit more for it than a standard bar, but who cares, right? I mean, it's like you're not buying silver at 36 spot to what are you gonna do, sell it at 40? No, you're buying this stuff to get through a very tough period of time with the anticipation that the good guys are going to win, which I'm a total believer in the plan, Bruce, as you know. I believe in the plan. No, I think at the far side of this, we're gonna take sovereignty back of our money, and part of that is going to be gold and silver, as it's mentioned in the Constitution. Gold and silver coin, right? Very important feature to what you buy.
Right, and you do that stuff as well. I'm people are just wondering what's going on. My kids got me a brand new camera, a webcam. It's a fancy thing, got some AI following, and look, it's just. I didn't touch shit, and the thing's moving. It's following around.
It's one of those.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on. My camera's
coming alive on you, bro. It's coming alive on you.
Over. I got to find out how to turn this thing off. But I've been adjusting it. Yeah. So that was pretty extreme. It just took off by itself.
Here.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. There you go. That's funny.
It's Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah, man. Gotta watch out for those machines. Look, I just moved my hand. So I guess it follows
What's
your
it called?
Wow,
StarNet?
that's crazy.
What's it called in Terminator? It's not StarNet, but
oh yeah, it is StarNet, I think.
It's not StarNet. It's something else. Anyway.
Skynet.
Skynet. So freaky.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, Skynet's taking over your podcast.
So if I just don't move and maybe it'll stay there. Anyway, so that was weird. It obviously follows hand motions, so I gotta learn the instructions a little bit more.
You just gotta sit there, just still.
Stoic, don't move. But yeah, so you're talking about coins and stuff, and you're big on coins because they are actually coins versus bars or bullion. Because they are actually right now technically, a legal tender. And so is that the reason why I talk to people about coins?
Yeah, I mean, it's because they're legal tender. It's written in the Constitution as not just gold and silver. Gold and silver coin is specifically written. Right. So I think that's why you want to go that route. I mean, if you're somebody, and I get calls from people who maybe have done purchases before, they're like, oh, Matt, I bought bars. Sure, you can exchange them. You just want to make sure you're not losing money in that exchange. That's my biggest concern, is that I don't want to do, replacing somebody's gold or silver. Gold might make some sense. You bought gold at whatever, 1,200, 1,500, and now, it's all the way up at 3,400. I just want to make sure you're not losing money on that deal if you've done business with a company in the past. But if you look at your statement or you look at what you bought them at, and it's lower than today's spot price, let's say, it might make some sense to do an exchange. Like I said, I just try to avoid that stuff typically because in most cases people lose money doing that. And I'm not, I would say, look, if you have bars or something like that, look, there is the perspective that, hey, gold's gold, silver's silver, right? You still have the precious metal. So it's nothing to panic about. But I would tell those people, like, any future purchases you do, I would really, if it were me, right, I would stick to the U.S. coin. Right.
And so we mentioned, how suppressed silver is, and we can, that's probably more suppressed than anything. Versus gold versus silver. I mean, it's artificially suppressed for a reason, for the controllers, if you will, the people to be able to have more control and holding that stuff down. Do you think what in your mind, your opinion, your viewpoint? Do you think is there going to be an event that happens, or what is going to pull the lid off and allow silver to move to a free market value where it really should be. And potentially, I mean, there's anywhere from hundreds of dollars an ounce to, some people get kind of crazy, and put that where gold is now, silver should be.
Yeah, well, the way this whole scam works by the banks, and I intentionally use the term scam, is you can demand delivery on the silver that you have, right? If you have a paper contract, you can demand delivery on it. Well, the banks have been betting that no one's going to demand delivery at the same time, right? What could ever happen to the banking system? So
it'll implode.
If you have a financial event, right, it's probably going to come from the debt market with the treasury bonds coming back to the United States, right? Something big like that. Default on debt, right? Whatever it is, you're going to see everybody who owns those silver contracts. You're going to see everybody demand delivery at the same time, and that's going to it's over. Yep. Right. The banks might try to incentivize you to say, hey, don't take delivery. We'll pay you an additional 5.5% on your money. Just let us hold on to your silver. But at that point, it's over for the banks. It's literally over.
They don't have it. They don't have it.
That's why you have to get it in your possession, right? And the reason why stuff like that works is that, somebody like Elon Musk, who owns Tesla and SpaceX, right? He's probably got, 1 million ounces of silver, right? But he lets the banks hold it, and he just taps into it. He takes delivery of it whenever he needs to, right? Whenever he's building projects. He doesn't want to have to be responsible for, $1 million or 1 million ounces of silver, right? That's just a tremendous liability. So what he does is he buys the paper, right? Just like a lot of these companies, and they just get it delivered when they need it delivered. So this is what it's gearing up toward. And at that point, anybody who's in a short position, namely JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank, right? They're screwed because they have these they're trying to get out of their short positions right now. I just don't see how they're going to do it. They're just too heavy. They're just too entrenched in that stuff. It'll be like, do you remember the couple years ago with the GameStop stock and the AMC stock, right? I don't believe the story, but let's just use the story. A bunch of Reddit users got together and they all went long on these stocks that, these big hedge funds were shorting. And what was scary about that, this should actually speak to people about getting their money out of the banks, especially IRAs and 401ks, is that what did the big hedge funds do? They called up the exchanges and they said, you put a stop to this now. Yeah. Because they were losing billions upon billions of dollars. It's like, can you or I call up the exchange, call them and say, hey, put a stop to it. I'm losing money. Just stop it. Make it stop. It's like, too bad. So sad. Well, it sucks to be you. Yeah. Yeah. So it just shows you how absolutely rigged and incestuous this whole financial system is. Get the hell out, get into something safe. No, and there's Lewis and other people have talked about that as well. I mean, if you think that you're a stock market person, you're gonna buy and sell stocks, and you're gonna make money and all that stuff, you're operating at a disadvantage because they have like a few microseconds, right? And when you go to buy something, they'll buy and sell a couple of times before you even get into the game, and you've already lost. You have a better chance. They're closer. Yep. They're physically closer to the exchange than you are. Yeah. And so you have a better chance of hitting it big in Vegas than you do of winning against the stock market. I mean, unless there's actually an app out there I came across recently that tracks politicians and their stock. Oh, you got to send that to me. Yeah, I'll see if I can refine it. It was an ad. I was doing something on my phone. The ad popped up talking about this app where they track the politicians, and you can actually follow the politicians and what they're doing in their stock trades. So that's another. I want to do what Nancy Pelosi is doing. Absolutely, or her husband. Yeah, it's insane. She has a bigger winning percentage than Warren Buffett on the stock market. It's crazy. So if you think that the game is there's a level playing field and it's the same for everybody, we got another thing coming. So that's why we could go trade with Paul Pelosi, and then we could go play hide the hammer. That's a crazy story. Yeah.
So just for some people getting the website, Matt's website has been rolling on the bottom. It's Verity Metals. You can visit www or not w, just Verity, Verity Metals, plural, veritymetals.com/poppy. And let me adjust that because it didn't have the .com. There you go. veritymetals.com/poppy. And on that website is if you're brand new, you've never invested, you want to get, kind of started, but maybe some fear is taking over. You don't want to make mistakes. Matt's got a free ebook. You get absolutely free, no cost, no obligation, no nothing. Just go to the website, get your first name, your email, I think is what you got to put in, and you can download the 10 mistakes investors make and how to avoid them. It's a free ebook, so you can get that absolutely free and check it and just start learning. I mean, you might not be sitting there on $500,000 or $50,000 or $5 million and want to invest, but you maybe want to get started in the game. You can get a hold of Matt. He can sell you some coins, right?
I have people that do $100 orders with me at a time. You know what I mean? It's all the same to us. And yeah, get that ebook. I put some time into that ebook myself with Robert Imbriale. We put that together, and it's got some great insights. And don't hesitate to call. It's like you have a friend, a patriot on this end. I'm always happy to talk to people, even if it's just to say hi. I get people that call up, Matt, you said, yeah, I could say hi. I said, absolutely. What's going on? If I got time to talk to you, we could talk for hours. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's always a fun crowd. And, just know when you call in, yeah, so it's an interesting conversation.
Whether you're brand new and never done anything, or you're a seasoned investor and you realize you can see the writing on the wall with the stock market, 401ks. I mean, right now things are running a little on the high side, but that's just falsely propped up. That thing can crash and burn at any second. So it might be a good idea. I encourage people just to have a conversation, because if you're considering doing something with a 401k or IRA, I just tell people, do your research, check it out. I mean, talk to Matt. A conversation doesn't cost anything. You can tell by Matt and his demeanor, he's not some hard sell guy. He doesn't care. If Matt can't help you, if you don't think he can actually give you a beneficial outcome for your personal situation, then he's going to refer you, point you somewhere else, right? Because I've heard him do that before. There might be some, special situation that he can't really help you out with. It's very rare.
Somebody wants, cryptocurrency. I've helped people, set up their wallets and set up on the exchanges. I'm happy to, I can't tell you how many Ledger wallets I've had to set up for people. But that's fine, because I'm like I said, I buy crypto myself, and I think it's a good place to have your money. It's just something like a retirement account, especially. You don't want to put your retirement in cryptocurrency. That's where you want it, in physical precious metals. Get it out of the markets, because let's look at it like this, Bruce. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, and we can kind of wrap it up here. But the real investment opportunities are not in this system, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, right? It's on the far side of this, when we're rebuilding the country, when Trump's walking this country through bankruptcy, and there's new businesses, new industries, new companies coming onto the exchanges, right? That's where you want to have the dry powder. That's effectively like, it'd be as if you're buying, Apple stock at $2 a share.
Yeah.
Right. That's where the opportunities are. So it's not even just the gold and silver that's so exciting. It's more, especially if you're like a stock investor type, a day trader type. It's really at that moment in time, which is right around the corner, to take advantage of those opportunities that are once in a 1,000-year opportunities as far as investing. Because you're in gold and silver and you have that dry powder, now you can go and turn it back to cash, and boom, throw it into markets. And that's where you take, a $50,000 IRA, and you can turn it into a couple $1 million. It's not so much from the gold and silver. It's being able to take advantage of opportunities that are once in a 1,000-year opportunities.
Absolutely. And we're right on the right on the edge, right on the cusp of that, if you will. I tell people all the time, people think that just because, and I hate the labels and the division and all that stuff, but if you're on the right, conservative type, you may be pro-Trump, and you thinking, hey, everything's going to be puppy dogs and rainbows from here. If we were really intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually honest with ourselves, that for us to be able to turn this country around and put it back on solid footing the way that the founding fathers intended it to be, every single person is going to experience pain. There's going to be pain. You can't turn this ship around without some type of pain. And so we're in this opportunity right now to be able to put ourselves in a position to experience as little pain as possible. I mean, that's what that's all we're talking about. Taking whether you're brand new and you just had never bought a silver eagle, a dollar, any silver coinage, you can get, like Matt said, he's had people do $100 orders and just get started. Or you've got a big 401, not even a 401k or IRA that's all in the stock market, and you can see the writing on the wall, and you're like, nah, you've worked your ass off for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and then this thing could go south and end up making your golden years a lot less golden, because like that thing behind him says, yeah, the storm is upon us, my friends. And, we need to be able to it's not over yet. Love it. So we need to, do that. So I encourage you just to go and check it out. veritymetals.com/pop. You get the free ebook. Matt's phone number is there. You can text or call and, just talk about your situation and see how we can help you out. Because one of the other things that's unique, I believe, about Verity Metals, and he mentioned it in the very beginning, is you can help people put an infrastructure in place where if you wanted to, you can actually be in possession of your gold and silver. You don't have to have it some box in a back office somewhere where you have no idea where it is, and if you need to get the money, it's going to take you months and months and months. So don't. He can do that. And the other thing to consider is the fees. Everybody makes money. We've talked about spot price, and for those brand new, never heard of it, the spot price is what you see the ticker. Say, okay, silver is $36.25. That's the spot price. And when you go and you buy some coins, an ounce of silver, or there's going to be a over spot price. So some places 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they want to charge. That's up to them. They're over spot price fees. Matt's fees are some of the lowest in the industry. So you got to take the lowest. You got to take all the
IRAs.
Yeah,
IRAs the lowest. Yeah, easily.
And that's because
we're a fraction of what people charge.
Right,
and we do a better job.
That's because you've been around, you've been in with the big companies, and you've seen what they do, and the things that they have done don't align with your morality. And the way that you can see business, and you can see how things can be done better. That's why you decided to go off on your own and start Verity Metals, right?
Right. That's right. It's been great, and I appreciate you having me on the show, and being able to get the message out there. We'll do more of these. We should do this
because we can spend
every
show
week
talking about crypto. I mean, we could just mention crypto. It's a good thing, but not long. There's too much volatility right now. There's not enough utility in the usage of those types of things. I believe that's coming sooner than later. But right now, silver and gold, platinum, palladium, those are the places that you want to be for a store in value, to be able to save your hard work that you've done and not have everything go to zero. So Get a hold of Matt Geiger with Verity Metals, and the website's on the bottom there. It'll all be in the description as well. veritymetals.com/poppy. Get your free ebook about 10 mistakes investors make and how to avoid them, and then give Matt a call. So that's all we're doing. Appreciate you taking some time today. And yes, we will do these again as things develop. As we're closing out with some, final, I like to give people some action items, some good things to look forward to. What do you see happening in the next, 6 months, year in the silver and gold market? Is it going to stay static? Is it going to be volatile, or is it going to?
I think it's only going up. My opinion. What do I know? But it was great being on the show, Bruce. And I think there's nothing to fear. Just get prepared on every front you can, whether be the financial front. Get yourself, get water, storables, generator. Cover all the bases, and I think we'll be just fine. There's no reason to panic.
No, yeah, panic is not in the cards. We just got to set ourselves up. Not have your head in the sand. right? You got to be aware of what's going on and not let it affect you. This most of the stuff I talk about on my channel is all mindset, unleashing the excellence that's inside each and every one of us. Unleash excellence in all areas of life, with health, wealth, finance, relationships, business, anything. There is so much more inside of us that we just turn it loose. We can accomplish great things. And they say money won't buy happiness. But Prince is one of my favorite artists, and I was listening to a live song he was doing. He was talking. He says, "Yeah, they say money won't buy happiness, but it'll help pay for the search."
Yeah, the way I've heard it is, money doesn't buy happiness. People say money doesn't buy. The people that say money doesn't buy happiness don't know where to shop.
Yeah, right. So appreciate Matt Geiger. Get over there, veritymetals.com/Poppy, and Matt will hook you up. Thanks, Matt. Have a great one.
Thank you, Bruce.
And remember,
see you soon.
Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Make it a great one. See you later.
Thanks.